Hello, folks, and welcome back to another edition of Money in Motion solo broadcast today, as you can see, without Monte. But excited to get into it because I do think we may have hit a macro inflection point yesterday with the pausing of rates. That was very interesting and could qualify as a pretty significant news failure going forth. So, I do want to start with just looking at some COT data and looking at some of the crowded assets. We've been, this has kind of been hinting towards the bearish side, or at least showing that there's just a lot of longs kind of trapped up here. And so, now if we're going to see kind of the opposite of that, or the bearish fundamentals that weren't really factored in to the start of the year, now kind of coming to fruition in the second half of the year, and namely Q4, perhaps we have to go down a little bit lower to potentially the 4,200 level to, scare some longs, get people back into shorts before prices can trend higher. I don't really know. We'll see. But as of now, that's kind of suggesting where positioning could be placed. So yesterday, I was talking about in the community a concept of like news failure, and specifically around the FOMC. We had something that, should have been somewhat bullish for the markets, a pausing of rates. I understand rate hikes are still high. It wasn't a lowering of rates, but, it still wasn't the most hawkish thing. And so the fact that we closed down there after creating, multiple lower highs, that was a pretty interesting short signal. I'd probably stop it out above the 4,500 level, but if we don't trade above 4,500 in the S&P, we might have to visit 4,250. We'll see. A lot of fear probably going on, so I'm going to have to wait till the close to get a better evaluation. But, that's one asset that I think is kind of interesting. But I do want to move on. First, I want to say hello to some of the people in chat. What's up, UIC now? Yeah, definitely good to get the price confirmation of strength before going in. But anyways, let's move towards other indices. One, namely, that's been pretty interesting short opportunity, or maybe a pretty interesting short opportunity, is Nikkei. That continues to kind of break down after this deviation above our downward sloping trend line. That's another one where you've had retail and large speculators really getting long, into this uptrend. And now that we're kind of falling, there could be a lot of trapped longs up there. And the Nikkei has just been one of the most, really bullish indices throughout the entire year. So I have kind of been waiting for some mean reversion, maybe a gap fill of this level at like 30,100, but something to watch for there. We will get to crypto, I promise. But I do want to hit some more macro assets first. Dollar's still trucking, We talked about potentially Australian dollar, New Zealand dollar being bullish yesterday. That did not last for very long after the FOMC. But we'll see. I mean, they're selling off into support right now and actually getting bid up into support. So we'll see how the day closes. Very violent sell-off for a lot of these assets to start the day, but some of these are, bouncing back. I think I was shorting Rune last night. I exited it because we've actually seen a lot of strength. Like, Storage J was down like 5% last night, where Rune was flat or down 1%. Now you see just outperformance and relative strength for whatever reason. I really don't know, but that was enough to get me out of the Rune shorts. But yeah, I'd be looking for assets like this with just like relative strength or things with potential setups. But anyways, let's keep going through the list. Continuing to deviate from the top of the range on cotton. So this is a nice one in terms of defining risk. Like, I like this as a futures trade, considering the fact that above here, like, that's clearly a stop. It's a stop loss. Target 1, center of the range. Target 2, bottom of the range. And that one has been very crowded as well, as you can see. Soybean oil, I'm still short this one, but we'll see. Kind of, it looks like a false breakdown today, similar to what we had in early August. So might have to close that if we do gap up on the bullish hammer candle at the bottom of the downtrend. Typically a good sign to close bearish trades. This could be the top for cocoa. I've said that before, but this time we are seeing some pretty good weakness, and that's true as well as in things like oats and the rest of the grain markets. But we'll see what happens. I mean, this is pretty unprecedented run up. Bitcoin, let's check Bitcoin's funding rates very briefly. Also want to see this in terms of crypto fear and greed. I'm willing to bet today is pretty bearish. Not as worse as the last couple weeks. Still climbing out. I think it's lagging data. Tomorrow should be pretty bearish data coming in. Regardless, we are selling off into support here. So, you just got to see whether price comes in to bid it up. Looks like we do have, some local bottoms trying to get put in at the start. I mean, I would be looking for intraday reversals just because sentiment has been so bearish. I'd be looking for a pop from these lows. I know it's very bearish day in the macro, but I think crypto, you could see a pop from some of these support levels and stuff like Lido. I wouldn't really want to be shorting into this because it'd be so easy to just see something like that happen. And, there's no point of being short into support levels like that, in my opinion. Let's see if there's anything that looks favorable for all right. Optimism's putting in a decent bottom. So I just go through a lot of alts today, and I'd look for stuff that could rebound here on the open because we are starting to bounce. Yesterday's panic selling was it's like clearly the time now where bears have to step up and hold their ground. Not saying that they can't, but that was anytime sentiment drifts towards the extreme. Obviously, it's really important to pay attention to. But regardless, I'll probably wrap this up soon. Let me just hit a few more assets. Let me know if you guys would like me to hit any assets in the chat as well as we go through some. Maker has been interesting. I think Maker could actually be potentially a short if we don't start rebounding here. Yeah, Maker looks like a potential short to me. Let's add volume. I'm willing to bet pretty significant divergence within volume. This is Maker on Binance. Let's make sure we get the primary trading venue. Oops. All right, this is better. So yeah, I mean, pretty clear divergence within volume right there. I mean, declining volume, inclining price, starting to see weakness at the top of the uptrend. Maybe we run these highs one more time, but we already kind of did yesterday. Either way, I think it's healthy to be looking for assets that are bottoming at support and looking to get bids in. And then also assets that have pumped really hard that are starting to create, maybe deviations at the top of their uptrends and, failing at resistance. Like a setup that was really nice earlier in the week that worked was Storage. So for instance, like I'm going to try to compare this to Maker. Something like that, like a double top. We were looking at a double top and, very bullish posture, similar to how Maker is postured right now. And I actually almost got, this is a trade we did take in our community. How does this thing work? Okay. Trade. So yeah, trade looked to be going good there. And then I ended up getting squeezed a little bit. Let's see. All right. But that candle closed down. Let's go. Let's see. There it is. And that's when the trend is like pretty much broken. So that's what I would be looking for in Maker. I'd be looking for this type of candle where you have one more that kind of runs the highs or runs the stops of the shorts. Then the real down move comes. So that's what we saw in Storage A, and it's pretty much been down only ever since. So that ended up being a good short trade, but I do. All right, let's stop this. I love the tools on TradingView. This looks pretty bullish. So yeah, and this was another one we talked about shorting in the community yesterday. So, starting to bottom here, starting to get some strength into the severe depression we saw yesterday. But yeah, let's see. OP's rebounding pretty nicely. WorldCoin's rebounding pretty nicely. Rune's rebounding pretty nicely. I've been wanting to get Arbitrum. It just hasn't really showed me much strength. I would say Optimism looks the best for a long today, to play the kind of like mean reversion. Even Storage A is starting to come back up. So maybe we need to come back up and, put in another third lower high here and then short back down once more. That's definitely something I would be looking for. But, this is a good example of an asset that just pumped, would we go from like 22 to 42 or 44 cents, 100% since the start of September. So yeah, that's going to give some back. Really interesting asset in terms of these boom bust cycles we've seen though throughout the past year. It's like just nice little 100% gyrations back and forth. But anyways, I think that's a good candidate for mean reversion over the next like month. Yeah, I don't know. Not a whole lot actionable today. Kind of just remain with those current positions, see how we close, kind of let the dust settle after yesterday's sell-off. That was pretty violent and pretty extreme. But I definitely think there is reason to believe this could have been a macro turning point. You have all of the individuals and hedge funds and just like the funds that basically bought all the way up into the uptrend as rates were going up. And then what if everybody bought as rates peaked? And then, the lowering or the peaking of interest rates actually leads to the recession or the fall or crash of the stock market. That would be very on point and very characteristic of like what things we've seen historically. So, I'm from a bullish perspective, I am very, very scared because I think yesterday could have been such a powerful news failure. We often talk that like, a bearish news failure or having, a high CPI print creating the low or having a higher rate increase actually created the low in 2022. What if a rate pause ends up creating the high? And I know it wasn't the high. We're a couple weeks off the high, but it's pretty close to the local high. What if that leads to a more severe downtrends like 4,200 in the S&P? I don't know, but that seems like it's getting more like a likely situation or scenario. So anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed. Don't forget to like and subscribe and check out tradethechain.com where you can get a free trial for 14 days. Great way to sharpen up the Bitcoin, crypto, and futures education skills. And don't forget to like and subscribe as it's a great way to support the channel. So I hope you guys enjoyed and we'll see you next time.